12. Yasmin Adam. After getting her pit bull, Sir Hinkles, while he was a puppy and raising him for 9 years, 43-year-old Yasmin Adam never could have imagined that he'd turn on her. It happened one day in early 2018 when she broke up a play fight between Sir Hinkles and her 2 other pit bull mixes. The dog then started barking at Yasmin and quickly launched into a full-on attack. For almost 10 minutes, Sir Hinkles mauled his owner, leaving her badly injured. Yasmin later told Inside Edition that she knew what was happening, but was so shocked that she didn't feel any pain. She eventually gave up trying to fight the dog off and accepted that she might die. Thankfully, that didn't happen. At the time, the South Carolina woman was visiting some relatives in Broward County, Florida. Her nephew came home in the middle of the attack and called 911. Officers got to the scene and found Sir Hinkles chewing on Yasmin's arm. When an officer failed to get the dog off of her by using a baton and pepper spray, they were left with no choice but to shoot him. As neighbors gathered around because of the commotion, one resident of the apartment building told the South Florida Sun-Sentinel that Yasmin always said her dogs didn't bite. Sir Hinkles was later euthanized, and the other 2 pit bulls were taken to a local animal shelter for care, while Yasmin received medical treatment. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition after the attack and underwent emergency surgery to repair her badly damaged arms. For the next 3 weeks, doctors tried to save Yasmin's left arm, but they ultimately made the decision to amputate it. She spent 6 months in the hospital in extensive recovery. During that time, her 2 other dogs were euthanized as well. After leaving the hospital, she became vocal in her campaign to warn people about owning dog breeds that have aggressive tendencies. Before the attack, Sir Hinkles had only ever been gentle, leaving her convinced that pit bulls are capable of turning on their owners unpredictably. She doesn't agree with the belief that aggression can be avoided by raising a dog properly, because that's exactly what she did, and she was still attacked. Yasmin acknowledged that raising a dog well is certainly one factor, but she warned people not to overlook the instinctive aspect of a pit bull's behavior. As you'll learn in today's video, it only takes a few seconds for something to go fatally wrong. 11. Crazed camels. In early 2023, headlines reported that an angry camel mauled its owner's head off in Rajasthan, India. Sohanram Nayak was trying to control the animal after it broke free from its leash and started chasing after another camel. Instead of listening to him, the crazed camel picked Nayak up by the neck and threw him hard against the ground. The Times of India reported that the creature then chewed its owner's head off. Rajasthan outlawed injuring and killing camels back in 2015. But this didn't stop Nayak's relatives from beating the out-of-control pet to death for what it did. It's unclear whether any legal action was taken against them for this, though. Another camel actually bit its owner's head off in Rajasthan in 2016, after being tied up in the sweltering heat all day. As temperatures reached over 109 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 Celsius, a man named Ujaram remembered that he accidentally left the pet's legs tied. As he started untying the camel, he was attacked. As many as 25 villagers rushed to the scene in response to the commotion, but they could do little more than watch helplessly as the camel ruthlessly picked its owner up by the neck, threw him onto the ground, and gnawed his head off. They struggled with the animal for 6 hours before finally getting it under control. Camel attacks on humans apparently aren't as uncommon as you might think. About a month before Nayak was killed, a camel turned on its handler at a children's vacation camp in Siberia. The 51-year-old handler punched the creature in the face, and it responded to the unprovoked attack by biting him. Emergency room doctors were unable to save the handler. In 2022, a 32-year-old zoo owner near Freeport, Minnesota was also rushed to the hospital after his camel bit him in the head and dragged him 15 feet, 4.6 meters across the ground. The man was training the animal for transport duties when the attack happened. A zoo employee rushed over and used a wooden board to get the camel to release its grip on their boss's head. The camel instead charged at the worker, who ran away and avoided being the animal's next victim. Luckily, the zoo owner wasn't too seriously injured. Shortly after the incident, the zoo even confirmed that it still planned to keep the camel. 10. Cat scratch. One woman tried posting a video online talking about all the good qualities her pet cat has back in 2014. But her attempt backfired when the kitty attacked her on camera. As the unnamed owner began her introduction, the cat quickly bit her on the hand. She continued talking though, as if nothing had happened, saying that she got the cat for free. It came with a litter box and even some free food. As the woman was speaking, the cat continued biting and scratching her as she talked about how loving he was. Eventually, she told the kitty to go away. At some point, she stopped pretending to like the cat and admitted that he was stressing her out, big time. The owner said she was willing to pack him up right away and deliver him to whoever might want him. Several of the tens of thousands of people who saw the viral video offered to adopt the overly playful pet. Hopefully, he found a new owner he's more compatible with, and who has a little more patience for his playful nature. 9. Anna COLARUSSO. In 2019, while trying to prove to her boyfriend that she could actually fit inside her suitcase, 21-year-old Anna COLARUSSO from LaGrangeville, New York, was attacked by her 7-year-old pet cat Sam. It happened when she suddenly popped out of the luggage, which startled Sam and caused him to react instinctively, ripping into Anna's legs and leaving her covered with deep, bloody gashes. Even after the initial panic wore off, Sam was still startled. He remained cautious for a while afterward and continued to hiss and claw at his owners. As someone with a lot of experience with animals, Anna knew that it was completely normal and understandable for Sam to feel threatened, even if she didn't mean to scare him. She was also quite shaken by the ordeal, writing in a Twitter post that Sam had never acted like that in the past. Luckily, the cat eventually calmed down and seemed to have forgotten about the incident within a few hours. He crawled into Anna's bed that night like nothing had ever happened. 8. Malicious monkeys. In 2019, 72-year-old Nga Mohammed tried getting his pet monkey to climb up a tree and get coconuts in Malaysia when the primate attacked him out of nowhere, fatally severing an artery. When the man's 29-year-old son, Mohd Zakaria Nga, couldn't hear anything happening outside the home in Terengganu State, he went out to investigate and found his father unresponsive, lying in a pool of blood. The crazed monkey jumped on Mohd and started biting his neck, causing him to scream out in pain. Neighbors overheard the commotion and rushed over. Luckily, they were able to drive the monkey away. Unfortunately, by then, Mohammed was already dead, and nothing could be done. Mohd was treated at a hospital, and wildlife officials tranquilized and captured the monkey. They said it would most likely be euthanized due to its aggression levels. Sadly, this certainly wasn't the first time a pet monkey attacked its owner. In 2010, a 61-year-old Virginia man named Joe Hamrick was viciously assaulted not once, but twice by his 7-year-old service monkey Noah, who was meant to be an emotional support animal for the man's PTSD. After the first attack, the owner refused to get rid of the monkey or have him put down, even though his injuries were serious enough to land him in the hospital. During the second attack, the primate reportedly bit off a chunk of Hamrick's leg, mauled his hand, and chewed his pinky finger off. Hamrick finally admitted that the pet monkey was unsafe and handed Noah over to Peggy Rice, the founder of the nonprofit American Private Haven. Rice later wrote that Hamrick won a battle against Chesapeake County authorities years before over his right to have Noah as an emotional support animal. She said that at one point, Hamrick had 2 monkeys, but had accidentally killed the first one. It's believed that Noah saw it happen and never trusted Hamrick again. Knowing that mistrust developed between Hamrick and Noah, Rice tried to take action to have Noah move to a more appropriate environment. After the first attack on Hamrick, she called animal control and warned them, but the agency told her that there was nothing they could do, since Hamrick hadn't broken any laws that they knew of. While Rice couldn't prevent a second attack, she luckily was able to give Noah a safe home with other monkeys of his kind. 7. Buck the chimpanzee. 911 operators in Pendleton, Oregon, got an unusual call one day back in 2021 from 68-year-old Tamara Bragoiti, who said that her pet chimpanzee, Buck, attacked her 50-year-old daughter. She reported that the victim had injuries on her torso, arms, and legs. When the dispatcher asked Bragoiti if she was helping put pressure on her daughter's wounds, she replied, "I'm trying to guard her from a 200-pound, 90.7-kilogram ape. So I can't really put pressure on it, ma'am." Umatilla County Sheriff's deputies got to the scene and found Buck wandering around in a fenced area. With Bragoiti's permission, they euthanized the creature so first responders could safely get to the bite victim and offer help. Both women were taken to the hospital with injuries, and Bragoiti's daughter faced a lengthy recovery, which included physical therapy. Bragoiti raised Buck for 17 years leading up to the attack. She told the East Oregonian that she was devastated to lose the chimp, who was like a son to her, but she was grateful to law enforcement for doing what was necessary. She credited both the sheriff's deputies and paramedics for saving her daughter's life. Broken owner said she didn't know what even provoked the attack. Bragoiti refused to go into detail on how she obtained Buck as a pet. The nonprofit People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA, tried convincing authorities to take the chimp away from Bragoiti in the past. In a letter to the state's agricultural department, the agency accused the woman of violating her license to own an exotic pet and lying on her application to own Buck. Oregon outlawed owning exotic pets back in 2010, with only a small handful of exceptions. Anyone who already had an exotic animal license was exempt from the new law, which included Bragoiti. The story's sad ending only seems to support the claim among activists that keeping a wild animal in captivity is incredibly dangerous. 6. Lion lashes out. 72-year-old British expat Mike Hodge has a passion for animals. He founded the Marikele Animal Sanctuary in South Africa, which is home to several exotic big cats, primates, and even birds. While giving a tour to a truck full of visitors one day back in 2018, he went inside a lion's enclosure to see what the big cat was sniffing in the corner of the cage. The lion, named Shamba, turned its attention toward Hodge once he was close and started to chase after him. Hodge ran toward the enclosure's door, but was unable to escape the lion, who dragged him across the ground and into some bushes, as horrified onlookers watched, unable to help. At some point during the attack, Hodge went limp. Shamba eventually dropped him, and an employee shot and killed the big cat, who Hodge and his family had raised from when he was just a cub. Hodge was rushed to the hospital, where he spent time healing from injuries to both his neck and jaw. A friend of the Hodge family told the U.S. Sun that the wildlife enthusiast was no fool when it came to being around lions, but clearly something went wrong. In a statement, a spokesperson for the family said that Hodge is still passionate about animals even after the gruesome attack. 5. Belligerent bear. One day in 2009, 37-year-old Kelly Ann Waltz was cleaning up her captive black bear's cage outside her home in Ross Township, Pennsylvania, when the animal suddenly lashed out and mauled her to death. Waltz and her husband Mike ran a hilltop menagerie that was also home to a tiger and mountain lion. She had cleaned the bear's 15 by 15 foot, 4.6 by 4.6 meters enclosure countless times in the past. But she made a deadly mistake the day of the attack. To distract the 350-pound, 158.8-kilogram pet, she always threw a handful of dog food to the opposite corner of the cage she wanted to clean. This time, for whatever reason, the bear turned on Waltz. Her 2 young children and a friend actually saw it happen and ran for help. A neighbor shot and killed the bear, but it was too late to save the woman. She was pronounced dead at the scene. After the tragedy, authorities revealed that Kelly's husband, who was licensed to own, sell, and display exotic animals, allowed his permit to expire the previous year. In Pennsylvania, this offense is equivalent to a traffic ticket, so no legal action was taken. Scott Castone, the neighbor who shot the bear, told the Philadelphia Inquirer that there had never been any issues with the animals in the decade leading up to Kelly's traumatic death. 4. Tiger strikes twice. When a captive Siberian tiger mauled a child not far from Toronto in 2004, it sparked a heated debate over exotic pet ownership. The victim and his family were at the home of the tiger's owner, Norman Buwalda, who had the big cat on a leash. Buwalda lost control of the animal when it decided to lunge at the family and attack the little boy. He miraculously survived with serious head and neck injuries. No charges were filed, but the community was furious that Buwalda was allowed to keep ownership of his exotic pets. He was legally licensed to own the creatures, so authorities said there was nothing they could do. Citizens of the town where Buwalda lived tried to get a bylaw passed to ban exotic animal ownership, but he fought hard against it, and their attempts to have the pets taken away failed. 6 years later, an animal that was thought to be the same tiger who mauled the first victim attacked its owner. Buwalda was feeding the 660-pound, 300-kilogram big cat when the incident happened. A relative found the 66-year-old dead and managed to separate Buwalda's body from the tiger by closing a set of doors that divided its enclosure into 2 areas. The tiger initially stayed at the property following Buwalda's death, but was eventually removed by the Ontario Provincial Police, along with 2 other lions. 3. Tiger charity gone wrong. Patty Perry founded a wildlife sanctuary called the Wildlife and Environmental Conservation Inc. in Moore Park, California. During an event one day for the park's donors back in 2019, 2 of the 4 tigers that lived at the facility attacked her and pinned her to the ground. She was later taken to the hospital for multiple lacerations. Perry had raised the tigers since they were small cubs and insisted that they were just playing during the attack. She entered the enclosure, which she had done countless times before, when a Bengal tiger wrapped its giant paws around her legs, knocking her off balance. Another tiger then pounced on top of her, and the 2 big cats continued to pull on her until guests helped her get to safety. The sanctuary's lawyer, Michael Bradbury, told local news station KABC that it was obvious to Perry the attack was playful, not aggressive. But he acknowledged that the incident was probably scary to those who saw it, and that they must have thought the worst. Bradbury also said that nothing like this had ever happened before, and that Perry was devastated by the entire situation. 2. Deranged deer. Something went terribly wrong one morning in 2019 when 47-year-old Paul McDonald went outside to feed his pet wapiti, a cross between an elk and a red deer, on his property in Wangaratta, Australia. After realizing that something was off, his wife Mandy and his son Ethan went outside to investigate. When they saw Paul being attacked, Mandy rushed over and tried to save him while Ethan ran for help. By then, Paul was fatally wounded, so the deer focused its attention toward Mandy. Ethan rushed back over and saved his mom by hitting the creature in the head with a giant slab of wood. A responding officer shot and killed the deer, and Mandy was airlifted to the hospital with critical injuries to her upper body and leg. She almost lost her life. The deer, which the family had owned for 6 years, was the family's only wapiti. Experts say that deer attacks are rare, but not completely unheard of. The chance of one happening increases during mating season, which was the case when the attack on Paul and Mandy went down. 1. Florida man's fatal encounter. Classified by experts as the world's dangerous bird, cassowaries are massive flightless birds that stand up to 6 feet, 1.8 meters tall, and can run at speeds up to 31 miles per hour, 50 kilometers per hour. It was among the multiple exotic bird species that 75-year-old Marvin Hajos raised on his farm outside of Alachua, Florida. One morning in 2019, Hajos was killed by one of his cassowaries. According to investigators, he fell between 2 cassowary enclosures and was attacked through the chain fence. Responding deputies had to dodge at least one angry bird to help Hajos. Unfortunately, it was too late to save him. Cassowaries are known for their immense strength, speed, and aggression, but experts say they typically prefer to avoid humans instead of attacking them. When Hajos fell, it might have provoked the bird's aggressive behavior. An autopsy revealed over a dozen lacerations all over the man's body, including on his face, neck, back, abdomen, thighs, legs, and one of his arms. The bird cut an artery, which isn't surprising considering how cassowaries' dagger-like nails measure several inches long. After the tragedy, the state auctioned off the 100 or so creatures from Marvin's farm, which included other cassowaries, kookaburras, macaws, and lemurs. Unlike many other animals that attack humans, the cassowary that killed Hajos was not put down and was among the birds that were sold. Although cassowaries are classified as Class II wildlife, which means they can pose a threat to humans, Hajos avoided the permit requirements to own one, based on an agricultural exemption that was granted to him. The auction was carried out in accordance with his wishes for the animals to be sold after his death. Thanks for watching. If your pet lashed out at you one day without any warning, but had no history of aggressive behavior, would you consider finding a new home for it, or would you keep it? Let me know in the comments.